wrapping some copper mesh around my hostas to thwart slugs. I did this last year. It actually worked pretty well. And, it's nice to find a way to protect them that doesn't hurt wildlife or beneficial insects. Putting down slug bait tends to attract my dogs as well as anything else. So, yeah, I'm looking for something that's chemical free to protect my hostas from slugs. And this little copper mesh that I found online on Amazon, I just wrap it around the base of my hostas, and slugs don't like to crawl across it. I'm going to have to order some more, of course, but it's pretty easy to do. Like I said, I'm going to have to order some more. Hi, everybody. I'm Lori, your Milkweeds and Roses gardener. Boy, there's a lot going on right now. The garden is looking great. I'm so excited. I'll give you an updated tour here. But also, there's some things I'm trying to plant right now, including some more hostas, a blueberry bush, my first ever, and putting some more thriller elements in some containers that I've already planted up. But wow, busy day, exciting day in the garden. I hope it's the same for you where you live. Anyway, let's get back to work. All of my planting happening under the watchful eye of Mama Robin, who was returned, and she's sitting on 3 eggs. She's my biggest advocate for the hosta garden and making sure there aren't any chemicals in here. So I thought I'd grow a few more. I have Catherine hosta. I've got 3 roots of that. And I thought I would put them here in this pocket that has, it's a nice place to add some hosta with a little more yellow leaves in them here. Now, it does take the hori-kori digging through this area carefully because there is landscape lighting and a lot of crabapple tree roots. And in this area, I've got some Minutemen hosta. Now, those are a little bit bigger, but again, I think what would be nice, and I'm putting it at the base of this newly transplanted Annabelle hydrangea. So there were a couple other things that I had in here that died out over the years. Like I said, part of being a gardener is realizing how to adapt and evolve. And I do know that hostas like this area. And the soil is rich, even though there's some dry shade here because of the roots of these formidable trees. But I thought, if I can get some hostas to ring around the Annabelle hydrangea, then it won't look sparse as she's starting to come up every year. And by the time she's done flowering, I think these will be sizable enough to not get in her way. But the color contrast will probably be kind of nice here. And, since there are some other pockets in here, I thought, well, all right, I can also plant, there's Minuteman in here. So Minuteman has some nice wavy chartreuse and white margin leaves. Again, this is another variety that is a little more slug resistant because of the thicker leaves. And they sit a little bit taller in the landscape. So I thought there might be kind of a nice contrast here next to the mucademia and some of the other smaller leafed hostas that are in the garden. In this area, I thought I would put, some nice blue leaves would be pretty. And the 2025 hosta of the year, Skyline hosta and Bressingham blue. Bressingham blue is a pretty big hosta, actually. But I thought putting some blue hostas in this area that's got all different shades of green for some nice partnership with the blue camassia off to the right. I chose more slug resistance hostas for this area, which slug resistant hostas have thick, waxy leaves, corrugated, wavy. They tend to be blue, but not all of them. Now, I have all of these varieties in my garden, and I can tell you that Sum and Substance is not a blue hosta, but it still has the thicker, more rippled leaves. So I think this would be a nice way to fill out this area. And again, underneath this mature maple, it's kind of tough to get anything else to grow, but hostas, which have a shallow root system, don't mind dry shade. I just have to make sure and keep these well watered in the first year or so. So again, finding little planting pockets and making sure to put the label there by them so I can remember where they are, because it might be just a little bit before they come up. And in this area, I thought, because this is closest to the patio, that I would plant one known for its fragrant flowers. Aphrodite, again, a more slug-resistant variety, waxy, thicker leaves, and a little more of a blue tint here. And I don't have a lot of blue in this area. Again, it tends to be lots and lots of the same sort of color of green. But I thought, okay, I'll put this, I only had a single one, so I'll plant this in here, and when that nice flower spike comes up in the fall, well, I'll be able to smell it. So it's important here too to keep these well watered, even though it's right next to the stream. And when the birds come in the stream and take their baths, they actually spray a lot of water. But, you know, keeping it mulched, and again, making sure that name tag goes right there so I can remember where it is, would be good. Now, this area, I have very few pockets of good sun, like 8 hours of sun, and this is one of them. So I thought I would try. I've never tried to grow blueberries before. I love them, and they say grow what you like to eat, so since my space is limited, I thought this might be a good area. So again, getting through several layers of mulch, and the mulch that we've been doing, this fine chopped wood mulch, is actually good for the soil. The soil is nice and rich and black here. And this is a blueberry bush that I just got at Lowe's. It was on discount, so I thought, well, let's give it a try. It's kind of calling my name. So I thought I'd put it right here in this nice sunny spot. I don't think it will get too big, but again, if I get any berries off of this, I'll be tickled blue instead of tickled pink. But yeah, I thought it'd be also kind of a pretty little bush to have here. And I'm sure the birds will probably beat me to the berries, but I don't expect to get any berries this year, but maybe next year. In the meantime, it's hardy down to zone 3. So that's singing my song here in zone 5B. You never really know what the weather's going to be like around here. So again, just replacing the dirt and putting the mulch back in there and making sure it's not over the crown, but close by to keep the moisture in. And of course, the last step for all of these things is a really good water. So the mulch is nice and thick in here, and gave it almost a full watering jug of water, because again, this is another area, because of all the trees in the surrounding area, this area has dry shade. So I have to hand water almost every plant. Well, I do, every plant that's in here. Fortunate for us, we've had an awful lot of rain this year, so that does help. Now this area, I thought, here's where I'm going to plant some seeds. Giant larkspur and cosmos are always successful. And of course, zinnia. Zinnia, this is a different color for me, the double salmon, but I thought this area could use a little more color, and it's a notoriously tough area. It does get 8 hours of sun. It gets the morning sun, and then it pops over in the afternoon, and, you know, blazing afternoon sun. So Joe Pieweed there, that nice healthy stand right up next to the trellis, it doesn't mind that. It likes the sun, but it's been hard to find other things in here. And I want something that will start to grow up. So I thought, well, I might get lucky, and these will grow up and mask the dying foliage of the tulips here. I also have some sedum in this area, some daylilies in this area. They tend to like that, but I thought, okay, if I can get these to grow, I had to peel the mulch back so they have good contact with the soil, and just sprinkle some in lightly. I'm not using the entire packets here, so I'm putting those back in, because you know what? They might be good for another year or in another spot. The same thing here, another top of the waterfall gets a lot of sun, and it's kind of tough to grow some things here. Those hostas, there used to be a lot more in this area, but I moved them because they tend to get fried by the sun ever since we lost the second white pine. Now, the second white pine is where that container off to my left used to be. We had the tree removed, but not the stump, so I just set that big container on that. But this area gets lots of sun, so much so that it adds a lot of algae to the area. So I'm looking for things that might shade them out a little bit. So you can see that's why roses grow in this area, because there's that afternoon pocket of sun, which has been good for the peonies. So that's why this Buckeye Bell peony is doing so well. And so is Mrs. Robert Bryden. Now that's a type 3 clematis. It blooms on new wood. So I cut it down in the spring before it starts to bud up again. It's a sprawling clematis, not a twining one. So I attach it to the trellis and let one or two limbs just kind of sprawl over the fence. In this area, which is, of course, it'll look better once I clean up this debris, but I do have hostas and a couple other things coming up here. Oh, and look, the lilac is budding. Oh, I'm so pleased. This is so fragrant. It's not a huge lilac, and my thornless blackberry is doing well. This area, I like the mix of color in here, and sometime this year, this fence back here will be replaced. So I'll have to be prepared for that. There are some things that are starting to bud up, which I'm looking forward to seeing this iris in bloom. And you can see there by the name tag that was wiped off for some reason. Oh, I tell you what. Well, I'll be able to identify it once it blooms, so stay tuned. Maybe in another week or so. This area where you can see Bassie's purple rose, I might have to move this because that's where I think I'm going to put the new tree. I'll also tell you more about that next week. Meanwhile, the fish are doing well, putting on weight, begging for food every time they see us out in the backyard. Now, not just anybody though, not just strangers, but particularly when they see me. It's kind of like my 2 dogs and my 2 cats. They've all got my number. They don't tend to beg for food when my daughter shows up or even necessarily my husband, but they certainly have my number and they come swimming up to the surface begging for food every time I'm outside. So yeah, I've actually started to name all of them now. But these guys are like 5 years old now. I think it's worth it. And koi can live 100 years if you're lucky. I do like this view though. It's very restful. And I like all the shades of green, especially when you take it from a wider perspective. Boy, I've got so many things. The hollyhock really taking off. Again, these are going to be different shades of pink. Surprise lilies, tiger lilies. I have some speedwell coming up. Oh, and look at my columbine is blooming. That seems like that just happened in 2 days. It shot up over a foot and started to bloom. Heritage rose doing well, but you can see all the variety of hostas here. I like to see just all, ooh, and a bird, and a little bird. Yeah, nice. But yeah, all the different varieties here that I've got. Lipstick blonde, and I've got some in substance. And a lot of these with the blue wavy, waxy coating, those aren't bothered by slugs. Solomon seal blooming. Oh, isn't that pretty? And I like the sambuca in the background. But again, more blue, thicker hosta. I have Aquiba drinking gourd, well, the drinking gourd hosta. If I say that correctly, I'll just know that's the part, the drinking gourd. But adding these here, adding the color, and I've got some blooming phlox, and adding these 2 a little bit lighter colored leaves as a contrast, just to brighten up this area. It gets so dark, it recedes because the fence is dark and the mulch is dark and it's in the shade. So I just want Annabelle to be able to stand out, and you can see where those are the cones or the early spikes of the 3 hostas I just planted. So those should really add some more color in that area and brighten up that area that's kind of dark right now. Oh, and check out Bleeding Heart. This was here when we moved in. It's probably over 20 years old. But I fertilize her now every year, and she's rewards me for it. And no, the strange formation of these leaves, it's not some new type of hosta. That's early rabbit damage. They took a bite out of the emerging cones, the emerging spikes, and as they mature, you can still see the bite from the rabbits in those leaves. So even though the leaves are over their heads right now, rabbits. Anyway, so more Annabelle hydrangeas transplanted here, doing well. And so is the dwarf lilac that I put in the pot 2 years ago, budding up. This will also be fragrant. The front tree bed now, the Tupelo black gum tree bed. I added the 2 new perennials here, just some English daisies to brighten up this area. And again, I want a variety of color in here. And I was excited to see some of my grasses and the Amsonia coming back as well. Yeah, this will be some nice, now that's fall color more than anything else. But I've planted a variety of different things in here. There's the grass coming up. They're supposed to be polite little clumps. I hope they don't get too big anyway. I planted them well away from the root ball. And the Amsonia coming up, but those will be a bright orange later. And speaking of bright colors, wow, check out the Japanese maple and the dianthus. Well, of course, the minute the dogs see me, they've got to remark about it. This is I wish I knew what type of Japanese maple or Korean maple this is. I love the structure of it. I love the color. I fertilized her, trimmed up some dead branches this year, and she looks better than ever. But I think part of it is because, frankly, the removal of that old ash tree. This is her first year of getting more sun. And the front pots that I planted a couple weeks ago, doing well. And I even have some fresh blooms. So I think this just sparkles. Well, that's it for this episode of Milkweeds and Roses. Thanks for joining me. I hope you do like this video and subscribe so we can watch the garden grow together. And I do hope everything is green and growing in your corner of the world. I look forward to seeing you next time.